This is Fireside Chat with me, Johnny B. Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is Fireside Chats with me, Johnny B. And today we're sitting down with Marine Corps veteran Josh Bird, another buddy of mine from Fellowship of the Parks here in Hazlet, Texas. And we're going to sit down with him, let him tell his story, and we're going to hear about how all the things that he went through and how Jesus redeemed all of that trauma and brought him back closer to the Father. So, Josh, welcome, man. Thanks for sitting down with us.
Thank you, John, for having me.
Yeah, indeed.
Awesome.
So, from joining the Marine Corps, that's a big thing, and you're a good dude. Let's start this off. Well, what possessed you to join the Marines of all things?
Well, I'll start back into my kind of my childhood. So,
Yeah.
when I was young, I always liked like war movies and things like that when I was a kid, and you know, my my family history. There's a lot of family history, mostly RV, Army, Navy, Air Force, um, but no Marines. I'm the black sheep in my family. So, uh,
As Marines usually are.
yeah, typically that's how it goes. So, I mean, I had a great uncle that was in World War II. He was he was a tanker in World War II, and he was there on D-Day storming the beaches of Normandy, and I think he died of his wounds later on in life. But and then I have uncle that was in Desert Storm. He was in the army. He was a Black Hawk mechanic and a gunner. And then my grandfather was in the army for 3 years during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And then I have another uncle that was in the Navy for like 15 or 20 years. I don't think he quite retired, but he was a sonar technician on a submarine, I believe. Excuse me. But there was nobody in in the Marine Corps in my family, and I always liked challenges as a kid because I would get too bored and get into things and get be destructive, and um, but I was kind of a wild child a little bit, just enough mischief, not anything where it would ruin the rest of my life kind of mischief.
Mhm.
Excuse me, but I don't know. One day I was a freshman, and my dad took me to an air show because I love being around airplanes and jets and military. I just love the military stuff. That was all my movies I watched was military, and I would see Marines and Navy SEALs, but I don't know, something about the Marine Corps. I just really I was drawn to it, and there's a pull up challenge. There were some recruiters, and I was 14, and you win like a T-shirt or something
Mhm.
pretty cool, and
Something cheesy.
yeah, something how they always get you.
Yeah.
Well, I did 20 pull-ups, and they're like, "Oh wow, so when are you gonna join?" And yeah, I looked older for my age. I was bigger. I just looked older. I carried myself older. I was the oldest of two, me and my sister. So when you're the oldest, I mean, you have more responsibility, kind of,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, a little bit more mature kind of
Right.
thing. And so, I mean, I even got it where when I was a freshman, I was a big freshman, and even the football coaches were like, begging me to play football, but I wasn't like, I was kind of athletic, but I liked baseball. But anyway, long story short, I did my pull ups, and I was trying to tell the recruiters, I was like, I'm not, I'm only a freshman. And they're kind of laughing at me like, sure, okay. But I think they just thought I was trying to gaff them off and, you know, go about my way because I was interested, but I really was. It's just that I was only 14. So I remember I got a recruiter card and a t-shirt, and they talked to my dad, and they're like, no, yeah, he's really actually just 14. And they're like, oh crap, so, but then from then on, I was just that much more interested. And throughout high school, it helped me keep my grades up because I knew I wanted to be in, and it helped me keep me out of enough trouble where it wouldn't like ruin my life or whatever. Because since then I decided I'm the type of person that once I decide something, that's it. I'm gonna do it.
Hmm.
My family was like, "Sure, yeah, okay, join the Marines, cool," But the closer it got, they were like, yeah, are you sure? Is that what you want to do?" And I was like, "Oh, for sure. I said I wanted to do it. I'm going to do it because it's a challenge, and I'm the black sheep of the family. I didn't go to church. I didn't grow up in the church. My parents could care less either way. Um, they're not church people. They don't have a relationship with Christ, and they kind of don't like talking about it. And with them, it's like politics and religion is not. You don't talk about that in our family. Like,
Oh, wow. So
yeah,
was that like a big impact on you as you were growing up?
honestly, interestingly enough, I knew I knew God was there. I didn't know. I had this feeling something was there, and now that I am a Christian, and I know that that was the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit was tugging at me. I think I was destined to be the black sheep to change the legacy of my family's legacy.
Mhm.
And so I would go to church. Some of the friends that I hung out with were Christ believers, and they were always there telling me about it. And I just questioned, like, what is it? But I didn't really look into it. I didn't, that feeling was there, like something was there, but I just didn't really look into it. And I didn't understand that till I was much older. Um, but I knew something was there. And I went to church like a few Sundays. It was a old school Southern Baptist hellfire brimstone church that I mean, the preacher would read exactly word for word from the Bible. And when you're a kid, man, that's boring.
Mhm.
You're getting in trouble for falling asleep, nodding off. But then after church, it was all the cousins which my cousins, we grew up together. We were all basically brothers and sisters. Like, saw each other every weekend, and we would
Mhm.
go to their house for some fried chicken, good old homemade fried chicken, and go play football or go to the airport and wash airplanes, make some money, and hang around, you know, that kind of stuff, and work some of the air shows and do that kind of stuff. But for the most part, for me, even 9/11, I think I was like 15 at the time, and I was coming into my junior year. It might have been like the start of my junior year, I think. And I remember in math class those TVs that they put on stands and strap them down and have the VCRs and
Oh, yeah, I remember.
roll them around. We were watching. Well, we weren't watching anything then, but we were doing math, and then all of a sudden there was a school announcement, and all the teachers turned on the TVs, and we watched this, you know, the destruction of the Twin Towers.
Mhm.
And then my parents were like, "We don't want you going." I'm like, "I'm still going." And I was, I still had some couple of years, but I still talked about it. And there's a couple of years and before, and, and I still talked about wanting to go. And, that still didn't deter me from going. Even amongst that, I was determined to still do this because I had set out for it, and I put my mind to it, and I worked hard to keep my grades up. And, I took the ASVAB test, scored pretty good. And, I almost didn't care what I did. I was so young. I was like, don't care what job or whatever I do. I just want to make sure that I'm a Marine.
Right.
Didn't bother me what I did. Actually, my recruiter was a parachute rigger, so he rigged parachutes and jumped out of airplanes. And I was like, "Yep, that sounds like something I want to do. The worst thing you could possibly do. I want to do it. The coolest thing you could do."
Right, right.
And I came in a time around where they started contracting out jobs to civilian jobs and taking away some of those jobs. And I picked a few. Um, my recruiter is a smart guy. He suggested pick something that you have a backup plan. Let's say, yeah, you want to retire, but something could happen where you can't. You want to make sure you have a job where you can fall back on in the civilian world and make pretty good money on.
Mhm, that's smart.
And so I was smart enough to listen to him, And so my backup job was what I actually winded up doing because I went through boot camp, and then after boot camp, you go to they don't do combat training in boot camp during boot camp. Now they do it after, and then you go to your MOS school. And so I was a 0411, which is maintenance management, which is a lot of logistics. But I guess in the civilian world, it would transfer to like project management, essentially, and process improvement.
Hmm.
And that's where I learned all those skills and got a lot of those certifications. I used uh, my my education benefits, and I went in September of 2003. Is I enjoyed my summer. When I turned 17, my parents signed the paperwork, and then I enjoyed my summer. I turned 18, and then the end of the year, September of '03. I've already graduated high school at this point, and I went to boot camp. And it was like you could train for it. I was in the DEP program for like 12 months, and they try to teach you everything you can, but there's nothing that prepares you for what happens really. There's really nothing that does.
Yeah, not in depth. I mean, that's run by the recruiters and a
Yeah,
bunch of high school kids.
really it is. And they brought drill instructors to scream at you a little bit to give you a little taste, but they're actually on their minding their P's and Q's and being really nice compared to what they really are. And so,
Yeah, they don't want to scare you off too bad before you leave.
right. And it's somewhat it's meant for that because some did fall out and are like, nope, that's not for me. They learned early on, and that's the point. They need to weed those people out. But I get there, and I remember we stayed awake for like 72 hours doing all our in processing. You get there, and like they're just screaming at everybody, throwing people against the wall, intimidating everybody. You take off your civilian clothes and you get issued all your camis and all that stuff. And
When you went to boot camp, was that at Paris Island or did you go to MCRD in San Diego?
I went to MCRD in San Diego. I was a
Oh,
Hollywood Marine.
oh, you got the cushy location,
Sure, I guess.
if you want to call it that, right?
Yeah. They don't promise you a rose garden. No, well, there's
Promise
always
that you'll be near the Rose Bowl.
for sure, for sure. You're right next to the airport,
Mm-hmm.
and the ocean's not too far away, but you really have nowhere to go to escape. Not that anyone has escaped that I heard of. Once you get there, you're kind of trapped. You get there and you're standing in line, and you're just thinking to yourself, I don't think I made the right choice.
Well, I mean, you got La Jolla right there that you can run off to. I mean,
It's all nice. The
all the
areas.
nice manicured lawns
Oh
and
man,
golf courses you can run across.
the airport is across the fence. That's how close we were to the airport.
I remember seeing it, driving by, because at that time I was already, out in the fleet and doing my thing. I would drive by and laugh at you guys as
Yeah,
y'all were doing your push-ups in the sand.
you almost wonder if I was doing push-ups in the sand and one of the moments that you drove by and it was me there.
If you remember a guy pointing and laughing, that was me.
It probably could have been. I mean, we're not that far off. Man, I remember drill instructors, they would get so annoyed with every airplane that would fly over, they would start screaming at airplanes and and let them catch you laughing about that too.
Mm-hmm.
Let them
Oh,
catch
you're
you.
having a good time. That's
You don't
yeah,
get
that
to,
makes them angry.
yeah, because their whole goal is to tear you down, and they do a great job at doing both. They tear you down and build you up, and you're a different person when you get out of that place. 3 months later, only 3 months later, 13 weeks of hell.
Yeah. So who was Josh going into boot camp?
I was a lost kid going into boot camp. Not gonna lie, I was just a lost kid. I had a lot of family trauma. There's a lot of alcoholism, a lot of kind of sexual trauma. I mean, most people think sexual abuse is like physical touch and things like that, but honestly, if you're exposed to really any kind of sexual things that you probably shouldn't age wise, or your parents kind of let it happen, you know, that's actual sexual abuse. So what I'm talking about is, when you're 6 years old and your dad wants to make sure, because in the '90s, there's still not a lot of homosexuality that was out there in the world. And my dad, all I can still remember, he showed me, um, like my first porn magazine, when I was 6 years old. I was like, I'm a father now. I'm like, I couldn't imagine doing that to my own son.
Right.
It was insane. But I thought it was normal, Um, you trust your parents, and you're so little, like your parents are your world. You don't know the difference. You're like, oh, I'm being shown this. He would make sure to know, every slang term and anatomy of a woman's body at 6 years old. Like I feel like I shouldn't know that stuff.
Right.
And then topple that with, there he's never I've never seen him my whole entire life without a beer in his hand or some kind of alcoholic drink where, you know, just 4 years later I had my first beer at 10. So I was
Wow.
introduced to alcoholism at 10 years old.
Wow.
And I remember getting drunk at 10 years old, and he would just laugh about it. It was a joke to him. And because that, I'm like, thinking back now, I'm like, the way he drinks, he was hurting from something and hiding something that he doesn't want nobody to know because it's probably really embarrassing. I
Hmm.
imagine his father either sexually abused him or he did it to somebody else. I
Right.
don't know, but
Yeah, but we won't know.
we won't know. I mean, I've tried to touch that subject before and I've been shut down. So there's something there because, um, from 10 years old, um, I just, pornography, alcoholism. But, you ask my parents, oh, we just did our best. That's their
Right.
excuse for being really crappy parents. Like, well, we just did our best.
Yeah, I think that was a mantra in a
Oh,
lot of the 70s and 80s.
I think so because it's like, I can't use that excuse. I can't show my kids that and be like, oh, I just did my best. I think that's just chalking. That's kind of a cop out. And like, oh, so showing your 6 year old porn, that's doing your best. Showing, introducing your 10-year old and getting him drunk at 10, that's your best. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So picture that kid broken.
Hmm.
Oh, I've been through, I mean, I could just tell a story about that alone, but there was constant that kind of abuse, or I'm, my parents put us around those type of people where there was actual physical sexual abuse around the same time that I was first introduced, like kindergarten, first grade. I was sexually abused by a family friend, neighbor that lived down the street, but I thought it was okay.
Hmm.
Or, I was just, I'm like, I didn't know that it was not good or whatever the case is. Like, it didn't feel good, but it just, the way my parents raised me, like, that was something normal.
Right.
There will be, throughout my childhood and my high school ages, I didn't, I wasn't, my relationships with girls weren't bad, but they weren't great. I was never really taught how to be a man, because my dad thought that, to be a man, you need to drink, you need to look at porn, just manly stuff,
Yeah.
chew
Well, I think our
tobacco.
examples back then,
Yeah.
if you weren't, in the word or pursuing Christ, the examples back then were Homer Simpson and Al
Oh,
Bundy.
for sure. Exactly right. Exactly right. The things that we were just exposed to and that we watched that was okay in the house is not anywhere near okay in my home. And again, I became the black sheep of the family. And so, um, all that to say, before the Marine Corps, I was kind of already broken. But, I needed to get out of that stupid town and away from that stuff. In that small town of Burnett and Bertram, most people, you either go to the military, mommy and daddy pay for your college, or you stay there and you're the next generation of townspeople.
Right.
And, my parents were not as fortunate to be able to pay for college. So, um, I mean, the military to me was one, I wanted to do it, and two, that's just the option. That was the best option for me.
Yeah, that was your ticket out of
That
town.
was my ticket out. Besides, I was a destructive kid and teenager, but there was a reason. It's because as a kid, I just wanted to spend time with my parents, be with my parents. I wanted attention, but I was told, get lost, get out of my hair. So when you're told that, subconsciously, like you're unwanted, really, is what you're being told.
Hmm.
And then to hear things like, when you're 18, you're out of my house. Or then my parents joke with their friends, and I can overhear the conversation. Well, when he's 18, he's going to get out of our house. He's just too much. Well, I wouldn't have been if you were just parents.
Right.
Didn't expose me to those things, actually spent time with me. It's really bad when your mom has to get in a fight with your father just to take me to play video games because he didn't want to. So I had a father, but he was more like an absent father.
Yeah, he was there, but he wasn't
But he really,
present.
there was times where we had fun, sure, and I would be confused because he tells me he loves me, but he must be dealing with his own stuff because then they don't want anything to do with me. And so when I was 18, I got out of their house. I went to the military, and I haven't looked back. And we have an estranged relationship, and it's even tougher over the years because I'm the black sheep, and now I'm a Christ follower. My family follows Christ, and they don't understand what that's like. So they don't see us as people that they really care for. Like, they love us because we're family, but they don't like us per se. So,
Right.
you know, all the brokenness going into the military, well, that just the military added to that.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of positive stuff too, like my wife.
Right.
Um, how I met her was like, it was all quick and fast, but I think it was God's plan for real. God had his hands in that for sure because I was due to get out of that town. Well, I kind of knew her through my sister, and um, I think I had one or two classes where I noticed her, but I was too shy to talk to her because I thought she was pretty, but um, I didn't really get to know who she was. And my sister brought her around, and after boot camp, the the combat school was closed because it was around December, so they closed it for the whole month of December. So I got to come back home and do some recruiting with the recruiters, but I got out of Round Rock, so I was recruited out of Round Rock.
I think that was the same office I was recruited out of.
Oh yeah, they
Except
had the Army, Navy.
next door in the Navy office.
I want to say they had all four major branches, because the Coast Guard. Sorry guys, I mean that's, I mean it's,
Well, back when I was recruited, Coast Guard was still Department of Transportation. They hadn't made DHS yet.
well, are they still though?
No, now they're Homeland Security.
Exactly. So I mean,
They're still not DOD.
no, I mean even the Space Force.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I mean now you got things like the Space Force. So there's that.
I
Elon
mean,
Musk
I'm not going
Space
to go out
Force.
there and say that Space Force is more of a branch than the Coast Guard,
No, I would say
but
not.
I think I just did.
But um, I met my wife. It was New Year's of 2004. She came to our house with my sister, and I saw her, but this time I saw her in a whole different light. Like, I mean, sparks were flying. To me, it was love at first sight. Um, but she was seeing somebody, and my sister knew it, and that the guy that was she was with wasn't treating her right. He was cheating on her, and so
Mm.
I had knowledge of this because my sister kind of told me. But I told her I kind of want to stay out of it, but I just knew. But the thing is, with the Marine Corps, they teach you is to be 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
Hmm.
So overconfidence is what I had.
Yeah, and we kind of appreciate that because the rest of us that want to stay in the back and push you guys in the front, we appreciate the 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
I mean, we what, like, when we get shot at, it pisses us off. So we run towards we run towards the shot so we could go take care of it.
Right, right. That makes sense though.
It's like a hornet's nest when we're like a bunch of angry hornets.
Hmm. I'll believe it. We're glad you're our Hornets though.
But I like how, I think, because we share naval traditions, like we're we're a part of that. So that's why I think my favorite people to hang out with are Navy guys. There's a brotherhood. I think they're
I mean, we're just cool folks anyway.
yeah. No, you're definitely really cool and laid back. And I've worked with Navy SEALs before, and I was like, why didn't I just join the SEALs? I mean, they're they get to kind of be OFP.
I mean, there aren't more Navy SEALs movies than there are Marine movies. So,
Yeah, they definitely get us out of a lot of crap.
mhm.
That's for sure. We get ourselves into some shit, and we're like, oh crap. So we're either gonna die, or hopefully the SEALs are gonna save us.
Mhm.
If not, we're prepared either way.
So you met your wife at a little house party, and your sister brought her.
Yeah, and um, and so because I went recruiting, I wanted to see her again because I was just like, are those feelings real, or was it just I don't know, was it fleeing? Well, it turns out they were real because I made it my mission to get her number.
Mhm.
And so, meanwhile, she has a boyfriend. Well, I went to the high school one day. They were eating lunch in the cafeteria, and I went through the line in my uniform. I paid, got my tray,
Looking all crisp.
looking crisp, and I sit down right next to her, and her boyfriend's on the other side, and I just look at her. I sit down next to her, and I hand her this card with my number. I'm like, call me when it doesn't work out with this guy.
Oh, that's bold.
And he just kind of looks at me, and he's like, but there's nothing he could do about it.
Mhm.
And she wanted him to get rid of the card, but she actually still has it in a scrapbook somewhere. I made an impact on her, but like she told me she thought I was an a-hole because I was too confident, and she didn't like the cockiness, but she did at the same time, and the uniform and the good looks and the muscles.
Right. I
That's
can
how
see
it
that.
goes. So I even made so much of an impact on her. Like, I don't know, because like this woman, she's a very strong, quiet leader, and her facial expressions will like tear you apart. She doesn't have to do anything. Her face will
Mhm.
do it all alone. And I'm like, I got the looks, and I'm like, I don't know if that made an impact or not. Oh well, I guess we'll find out. So before I left for the day, she even ran up and gave me a hug, and I was like, yes. And so
She doesn't hate me.
she doesn't hate me exactly. Um, and then I guess she fast forward a couple of weeks, and then I was getting closer to have to leave. Um, apparently she must have she calls me, and it's just like, hey, can you take your sister to the bowling alley and everybody come hang out? I'm like, well, why? Like, why do you want me to come over there? Like, I could just drop her off.
Yeah, you weren't picking up at the
I
hand
was
punches
not picking
yet.
up anything like a dummy. And I think she found this is when she found out her boyfriend was actually she was trying to get confirmation if he was cheating or not. And I went to the bowling alley, you know, looking fly again, but my civilian clothes, but I had, the schmedium t-shirts to show off my muscles.
Of course, you have to.
Yeah. And we get there, and we just kind of all sit around and just stare at each other. I'm like, what are we doing? And I asked her if she wanted to go bowling, and she was kind of like, no. I'm like, do you want to talk by ourselves? And she's like, no. Like, okay. So we just kind of just stood around looking. I don't know. It was so awkward. But she's told me that she was very like she was extremely shy and didn't know what to say to me. And so we got out, and I was like, hey, you gonna call me when it doesn't work out? And she got so mad at me. I was like, ah, I need to stop using that, right? Well, I mean, I had to leave like the next day. Um, so I go back, and we started combat training, and you get like you get like you have to work for 6 days and do all your schooling and training, and you have to cycle through weapons and weapon systems and learn weapon systems, do live fires and clean weapons, and learn the do's and don'ts and the safety and all the things, and you get to throw grenades and shoot AT4s and blow stuff up, use C4, just random things that you would be using out in combat.
Yeah, all the stuff you love seeing in the movies
Yeah.
anyway.
You finally get to, well, what they don't teach you in the movies, you got to clean the crap afterwards.
Well, I mean, there's a little
That's not
bit of
fun. Unless you're an officer, then you don't have to do that.
that. Right.
Not that I know of. I haven't seen many that do, but the good ones are the prior enlisted officers that do it. They know how to do it.
Yeah.
But you get the schoolboys, frat boys. They're like, yeah, PFC can do that for me.
Yeah.
um, I get a call one Sunday when I'm out on Libo. They give us, 6 hours of Libo on main side, where there's all the like McDonald's and all the MCX and the BX and all that good stuff. And I got a call from her, and I was so excited. Um, and finally, I guess officially, I even remember the date and time. It's weird. It was January the 18th of 2004, and it was like noon. I don't know why I remember dates and times. It's kind of, maybe I'm
Well, I mean, that
autistic.
one was pretty impactful because it
Yeah.
changed the trajectory of at least your personal life,
Oh yeah, for sure.
as much as you were allowed to have one in the Marines at that time.
For sure. Um, so yeah, we hit it off. We started off. Um, we wrote letters and we had long distance relationship for almost a full year. Um, so I go to MOS school, which is in Camp Lejeune, and I would spend 3 months at a time. We would do school and then we'd get a break, and I would come home for 2 weeks. But every time I got the chance, I would go see her, and we actually got to be, together physically. We go out to eat. We would, spend time together personally, and we kind of did it old school. We did it personally. Nowadays, it's like you see people swipe right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, nowadays there's also the option of doing all the FaceTime and
Yeah, and it's just
online chats and all that. That was kind of technology caught up to this new generation, but we didn't have that back then.
I still prefer the whole old school meet them in person and shake their hands and like actually kiss their lips.
Yeah.
You know,
If you were to go back and do that again,
right, right.
right? Not
I
not now,
wouldn't have
not
changed
now.
it. Yeah, not for sure. I wouldn't have changed. I think that I said all that to say I think it's our relationship has it started off um just talking on the phone for like 3 hours a night and writing letters and then seeing each other when the excitement of seeing each other when we can. So it bonded us much more. Like it made us bond more.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so after that, I finally got to my duty station in Camp Pendleton, and my first unit was Ninth Com. It was a communications battalion for First MEF and First Marine Division on Camp Pendleton on main side. And I hang out with buddies, and we were set to deploy. I think we left like I want to say like the summertime of '05, like June, probably June of '05 or '04. No, September '04, and we stayed there till um the summer of '05. We stayed there for 8 months. But um this was during the big push in Fallujah, the ground that was bigger than the Tet offensive in Vietnam. We were trying to clean out insurgents. But this is my first ever combat experience. So, um, we geared up and we leave and we say our goodbyes. And before then, I had proposed to her. And so we were engaged and she was my fiance. But I was like, oh, I guess this is the big test, because we're not married and this is war. And I mean, a lot of people, I get it. It's hard to live that life and they fall off or get divorced or just wind up not getting married because it's a hard life.
It is. Yeah, it is.
I couldn't even prepare herself and I couldn't prepare myself for war because there's nothing that you can do to prepare yourself, man.
No.
I mean, we get into Fallujah and we're staying at Camp Fallujah, which is a Iranian terrorist training camp. And weeks before the Marines have taken it over, and we're like one of the newer units moving into it. Well, we fly into a hot LZ because that's all they had. They knew it was like 03 in the morning. We're flying in, and they tell us lock and loaded. And you have the tail gunners and both gunners. The I think it's on the port side. Yeah, it's a port side gunner and a tail gunner, lighting it up. I mean, we're getting shot at just as much as they are, and yeah, for whatever reason, you always fly with the doors open, and but there's bullets bouncing around inside. You know, a couple of people got hit like in the arm and the leg. It was war. You know, all the movies and all the things. It's just you're just like kind of beside yourself as a
Hmm.
young PFC Lance Corporal just now going into combat. You know, you those moments. I think it felt like it took hours for us to land when it was just probably like 10 minutes.
Yeah, you're not even like landing on the ground and getting time to acclimate before you go do a patrol. It's like
You're
you're
just
in combat before you even boots on the ground.
yeah, you're just getting lit up right away, and you're grabbing your crap and you're running to the trucks. You're jumping in the back. You're trying to hurry up and uh, hightail it to the truck so you can take off and actually drive to base because you're not on base yet. Um, so even we, we finally get on base and we walk into our where we're gonna rack out, and they're like cleaning up blood and they're cleaning up bullet holes, and they're like, well, all right, Marines, this is where you're bunking down. We're looking around like, what? Like this is real? Oh, this is real, like the movies, you know?
Yeah, let me finish mopping up this blood. You can put your pillow down here.
Yeah. And so you're like, okay. Um,
And that's the only situation in the world where that's a normal thing. It's just chaos, and you're trying to normalize chaos, and it doesn't work.
and you know, and you have that adrenaline switched on and it doesn't turn off. You can't sleep because after we got our stuff situated, um, then next thing you know, we're getting mortared. So if the hot LZ getting shot at wasn't bad enough, now we're straight up getting mortared, and it's like it's hitting pieces of the building where we're at. And of course, like the big defac mess hall is like 2 miles away, and then your shower is like 3/4 of a mile away, and then the shitters are like half a mile away. So everything's spread out so it doesn't get all blown up all at once when if it gets hit. So if you need to take a crap, man, you're walking a minute to go to the port. They're all porta potties too. They're thank God at least there's that. At least you're not like out in the boondocks like digging holes.
Yeah.
Done that before too. Um, and so we're getting mortared, and then after like a month of that, you get used to it. You're like you fall asleep to it. Sadly, you're just like, if it hits me, it hits me. Like there's nothing you can do. You just if it's your time, it's your time. That was your thinking the whole time. Like you have to think in your mind, today I'm gonna die. Today's the day I'm gonna die, and you think that way every day because you fight differently when you think like that. Like you're invincible. Like screw it, I'm gonna die, so I'm gonna go all out. And that's how you live your life in combat. Is today's the day I'm gonna die. I'm gonna fight just the same way,
Hmm.
or I'm gonna live the same way. And I mean, there are several times where I had a mortar come within 20 meters from me, not explode. Ugh, excuse me. And you just kind of you walk by it and look at it like, huh? I guess like I could have died. I was supposed to die. Yeah. So you're just riddled with this constant like, I'm gonna get mortared while I'm taking a shower. I'm gonna get mortared while I'm taking the crap because, of course, your body's like, well, I still got to do my thing and take a crap. Well, I don't
Yeah.
really don't care what's going on.
Yeah. Like, I mean, everything still goes on.
Everything, yeah, everything still goes on, and you got to get used to it. And there would be times where um, you would wait like 3 hours to use the phone for 15 minutes because everybody's trying to call home, and there's like this tent they set up with a little phone. And remember the old school, you buy 100 minutes on your phone card.
Oh, yes, I remember that very much.
I used to have a pocket full of those. Like get um, they'd send us like boxes and stuff. People would send us boxes full of stuff from back home, and get a bunch of phone cards, and you kind of hand them out, ration them out. Well, you use up your phone card, and you get to talk to your family for 10 minutes. Well, it seemed like every time I got on my turn, it'd be 3 in the morning there, and like at night here because of the different, like, 9 hour difference. And I'd be talking to my wife now, but my fiance then, and I'd seem like I get on the phone, I'd get 8 minutes into the conversation, and you hear mortars and rockets and gunfire, and it just sounds like hell broke loose. And I'm trying to tell her I gotta leave, and she can't hear me very much because or almost having to scream at this point because it's so loud in the background. And next thing you know, click, phone goes out before I could say bye,
Yeah.
and River City happens. Um, and it all the phone and
Yeah.
the
Real quick, for those of you that aren't familiar, River City is when they shut down all communications going out. There's still some that are coming in, but nothing goes out until the higher up commanders give the all clear for that.
Yeah, because they gotta write, gotta assess when the dust clears who made it out and who didn't, who's hurt, who died. Then once they figure that out, they gotta write letters to the families before anybody can say anything, just in case there's miscommunication or something.
Hmm.
They're very good at that part of their jobs. They want to make sure 100%. Um, but then and the whole time your family's just sitting there watching news, or not watching the news, but they're just hoping and praying that you weren't one of those people, and they're not going to get a letter, or they're not going to have Marines in their dress blues show up to your house saying sorry for your loss with the letter.
Right.
Um, and my wife would tell me that she would just cry for days because she didn't know. Um, and then next thing you know, she'd get a phone call and it was me. Um, and it would be hard to get used to that. It's still hard to like to even think about that. And then, but in the moment, just that's your life, and you have to live it so you can make it back. Well, um, there's a few other times where, yeah, I probably shouldn't be here. There was one in the LZ when you're trying to make it to the, everybody tried to make it to the truck. And then there's one where you're getting mortared and almost getting hit and it didn't explode. And then, um, our command post, I worked in this command post tent, and, we kind of just, we would either be combat replacements, where if enough people got killed, you'd be on a convoy and you'd be patrolling, or, just any kind of job, but our actual MOS. Um, just because you're a lower rank, I mean, really, you don't really get to do your MOS. I feel like in the Marine Corps until you're at least an NCO,
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, there's a lot going on, and unfortunately, there's a lot of attrition due to circumstances that are going on around you,
and that I
and
didn't
so
know at the time, but
yeah, and
now
you're
knowing,
a useful body that's
yeah,
trained.
then you get to get a weapon and some ammo and go help out your buddies.
Yeah,
And because Marines are riflemen first, and it doesn't matter what you do. That's what, if they need you to do that, because you're not doing your job, that's what you're doing.
right.
And so there was a couple of times where I found myself doing that. Um, and then in the city, and I think I was in around the time of Chris Kyle's last deployment. He- I was in the Fallujah at the same time he was Overwatch in Fallujah, when everybody was kicking in doors. So I thought that was kind of cool. I heard of him a little bit before, but not. He got really, really famous after he died, obviously.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because he was
Yeah, he was a good. He
he was
seemed like a
he
good
was a
dude.
good dude.
Um. So yeah, we were. I remember one day we were just kind of, we were filling sandbags, and you and a buddy get to take a humpy and then, like, bunch of 2,000 sandbags, and you got to fill them in a day. And you get put right out the gate, the front gate. But when you look around, like everything's flat and just sand. And even if you're not paying attention, like you could lose sight of the main gate because you can barely see it.
Right.
And so you're just out there kind of exposed. And every now and then you get pop shots and gunfire that'll hit your Humvee, and you're like, oh crap, you know. Thankfully, like you basically dug yourself into a trench anyway, just filling sandbags.
Hmm.
And
Is it like that movie Holes, where they're out there digging random holes in the desert?
so yes, if you just that's exactly it. You're just digging holes. Um, and there's this tar pit though. This tar pit full of crap, like metal and all kinds of crap. And I don't. It was just random. I don't understand it, but it was just a tar pit, literally like La Brea tar pits, like dinosaur, like straight up. It was a small pool, but it was like a bunch of gooey black crap with some dusty sand over it. And we pulled this hunk of metal out, and I don't know why we did. We're just bored, and we pulled it out. We got done with sandbagging.
That's always the story. There
Yeah,
was a
it's
couple of bored Marines.
that's never ever ever good, ever good.
I mean, I think every Friday when we got the safety mishap reports,
It was
most of them started off that way. A couple of bored Marines.
bored Marines. Oh, half of Camp Pendleton was lit on fire. Bored Marines flicking matches at each other. But that's a true story, by the way. But um,
I don't doubt that at all.
that's.
At all.
I'll get back to that one. Put a pin in that one. We take this thing back to our tent, into the command post tent, and put it out in the back of the tent, and it looked like the best I could describe it looked like a car wheel, a bent up car wheel. It's kind of bulky, but you couldn't see anything, any kind of markings on it because there was just it was like black tar. And I don't know. We just have a 10-pound sledgehammer. We're trying to hit this thing and see if we can scoot it across the dirt the best. Stupid Marines, not even knowing what it is.
Right. It's just Marine Olympics.
Yeah, exactly. And so I grab it and I start pounding this thing and trying to smash it and get it flat. And I get tired and I'm like, all right, let's go get chow. So we go to the DFAC and go get some really good Army chow hall food. Um, and we come back and like EOD and force protection and like the base guard have this thing on a table and they blocked it all off and they're like, that's an unexploded ordnance. Like you need to not, you can't be around here. I'm like, we were just hitting that thing with a sledgehammer. Like,
An hour ago, we were just
yeah.
beating this thing up.
So apparently it still had primer in it and I was smashing this thing in.
Oh, wow.
Like, I'm pretty sure a couple more hits, it could have blown up.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, I felt like an idiot, but stuff like that happens all the time. People don't understand, like in training accidents, a lot of the times it's because either someone didn't follow procedures or someone was bored and stupid. And so in this case, it would have been bored and stupid.
Right.
And so I mean, that was a miracle that it didn't blow up. And of course, I didn't tell my wife this or fiance.
Oh, she's
I
going to know
would,
now.
yeah, now she definitely. She's like, I don't remember. I got drunk one time and I told the story, and she slapped me like, "Are you stupid?"
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah. And
You met me?
yeah. And golly, I just can't believe like at the time no one was thinking about it. Like we're just being dumb, young and dumb too. Um, and then I think the next time where I came close to getting shot was to get to the stupid chow hall. You have to walk like almost 2 miles down the concertina wire, then walk either a mile or half a mile across. Then you walk out of the gate and walk back up another whole mile and then turn left a bunch of times. And then there's the chow hall. So we watched a bunch of people put boards and stuff over the concertina wire and make a path over the concertina wire and walk over it. And it would cut off like Man, it probably took 30 minutes to walk that whole way or more. And it cut off like half the time, even way less half the time. Like it took like 10 minutes.
Now you have a direct route instead of walking through a maze.
Yeah. And then, we saw other people doing it. And a lot of people were doing it. Like it was like, I don't know, one day they changed guards and we're doing it with a group of people and you hear pew, 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 like we're getting shot at. Well, we're upset because we're like, why the hell are they shooting at us? Well, guess what? You're in a combat zone and the guard is following his procedures. And whenever you cross the concertina wire in a combat zone, they have to shoot you. Like they can't see who you are. They can't tell if you're an enemy overrunning it or what.
Yeah, all they know is they were told to guard this patch of dirt,
And they
and they're going to guard that patch of dirt by all means.
and their first rule of engagement is you fire warning shots, and then after that it's a well aimed shot when nothing gets done about it.
Right.
So that was our warning shot. So we got out of there, but if we would have waited, it would have been a center mass well aimed shot to the chest for sure. So we didn't wait around, and then but then you had um like force protection is kind of like the cops, I guess, if you will, and they
Yeah.
go investigate why those problems are the way they are. Well, we run into our tent, and they come into our tent, and we pretend like we're asleep or something. Yeah, after chow, you eat some food, and you get tired and take a little nap if you can.
Mm-hmm.
We had a moment. Well, we didn't want to get caught, so we just fell asleep, or supposedly, and acted like they woke us up. We're like, oh no, I think there was the motor pool guys, because most of them, that's who it was. Is a lot of those guys, and they got found out, and a lot of them got in trouble, and they got in like decently. In one of them was NJP'd for that kind of stuff,
Oh man.
non-judicial punishment,
Yeah.
and
I'm
it's like,
familiar. I'm unfortunately familiar with that.
well, they're lucky they just didn't die. You know,
Right.
they're lucky it was just warning shots, and it wasn't moving into the second phase of engagement, rules of engagement, where it was like, okay, well, they're not getting the point,
Yeah.
and so thinking back, like that was dumb too, and that was like a few days, maybe a week after we were beating up a bomb with a 10-pound sledge. Oh wow, wow, just so dumb.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good point right there. To one, pay attention to the warning signs that are around you. When folks are trying to go somewhere and they get the wrong way signs and everything else that it seems a lot of people don't pay attention to these days. But
Yeah, they really don't.
yeah, but at the same time, hey, we are coming up on almost an hour already, so
Nice.
I think this is a good spot to say come back and join us next week, and we're gonna Josh and I are gonna keep going, but we'll let you guys come back next week, and we'll finish up the story of Josh Bird here, United States Marine Corps, and get into how his relationship with Christ was able to help him walk through and recover from all the trauma. Thanks for joining in with us, and we'll catch you guys next week.
All right, see you guys.